Simply putting a paragraph or two about your culture in your handbook or posting a nicely framed culture or value sign somewhere in your restaurant for all employees to see is just not enough. You have to take the time to periodically evaluate if your culture vision aligns with reality. And unfortunately, too often it doesn't. In the event your culture isn't where you want it to be, then strong measures should be taken. If a poor environment or culture is left to linger for too long, the ability to pull the team together can be much more difficult. It will be costly from a financial perspective and will negatively impact morale and your reputation. It's one thing to define your ideal culture, it's another to actually turn that vision into reality. But since culture is who you truly are and the actions that you take, not just who you say you are, it's imperative that you're able to move it from paper to practice every single day. And to do this, you first need to evaluate how culture is playing out currently in your restaurants. Remaining neutral and open-minded during this process is really important, but I know it can be hard to do as you are heavily invested in the business. In order to counter this, you can bring in a trusted friend or a mentor, bring them into your restaurant to offer their views on your company's culture from a customer's perspective. Even better, you could coordinate 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 of your friends to do an impromptu focus group. Ideally, this group will sit down to have a meal, and then you can ask them the following questions about their visit. How are employees engaging with customers and with each other? What are the most prominent emotions displayed by employees and by customers? What are 3 adjectives that describe the restaurant? And how do you feel upon entering the building? And how do you feel when you left? You're on track if the responses match up to your intended culture, but you are not in the free and clear just yet. You need to get solid feedback from your team as well. Now that you have somewhat unbiased views of your current culture from the customer side of things, you need to check with your employees and get their opinions and get their feedback. You can ask them to complete a culture survey or sit down and chat with them and conduct a culture interview. Either method can work well, but it really depends on the existing culture that you have. If your employees are regularly encouraged to come forward and share their thoughts, both positive and negative, then either method will work probably well. But if employees are not used to speaking up and are reluctant to do so, it could be because they don't think they can or they are not comfortable doing so. In this case, an anonymous survey is probably the better way to go. It's your best shot at getting honest answers from your team and aligning the culture for long-term success. When employees feel like they have no say and they have no power, they are going to quickly lose motivation, while animosity and dissatisfaction can spiral out of control, and those feelings can spread like wildfire among your team. The end game here is you want your employees to have a vested interest in achieving the company's true cultural goals and to understand how their efforts facilitate such measures. Engaged employees can experience improved job satisfaction and productivity and even spur innovation and creativity. Research has shown that employee motivation may increase when they believe in their employer's purpose and ultimately their own role within that context. Some parts of culture will evolve and morph on its own, but much of your cultural foundation will be strategically planned based on your brand's unique story and values and standards and so on. One thing that I've definitely learned throughout the years of leading teams is that why we work determines how well we work. Your restaurant needs to have a worthwhile why. Aligning your intended culture with your actual culture can be a perfect way to provide a lot of inspiration for your employees. Each employee represents a critical piece of your cultural puzzle, and you will have more success when you always put people over policies. If a person on your team is struggling in any way, talk to them and see how you can help. It may be that they just need some simple additional guidance or mentoring, and how you treat your team, especially when they are struggling, provides yet another glimpse into your company culture.